Call this meeting to order. The Township of Black River Matheson acknowledges the Abitibi and Assiniboine Nation traditional territory. We live, play, and work here together, and together we shall build a strong and inclusive community. And a reminder to all in attendance that council meetings are recorded and made available to the public on the township website for review. And I'd like to welcome those in attendance tonight. Thank you for showing up. We should be good. Thanks, Anji. Appreciate it. We must have a limit. I need to move in a second to confirm the agenda. We need to move in a second for the confirmation of the agenda, please. We got Councillor Drewer and Councillor Gadry.
I'll read the motion, Mr.
Please.
Mayor. Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Gadry, that the agenda for the regular council meeting of February 14th, 2023 be approved as printed.
Yeah, yes, Councillor DeMarchi.
I'd like to have an addition 7E. The ice resurfacer, have a discussion on that.
I mean, it's probably in the report. Really, but not in the position. There's a report on the executive agreement. Or no, okay. Okay, thank you. Item 7E. And yes, Madam Clerk.
I'd like to propose that we add an item to closed. So it'd be item 4C under section 239 subsection 2 clause A for the security of the property of the municipality or local board regarding our financial position.
Okay, thank you, Cass. Appreciate that. We'll have that added. It's according to the rules, as I understand, because I keep getting told, because we have to add it to the closed agenda while we're in open, so that's why it's happening. Correct? Do I actually pay attention?
We added to the open agenda and the closed agenda.
Well, very
We do it
good.
twice, yes.
Thank you. I got it more or less right. Anyway, all those in favor of the motion? Seeing no objections, carried. Item 3, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Move on. Adoption of minutes. We need a mover and a seconder, I guess, eh?
Yes.
A mover and a seconder. I got Councillor Neal and Councillor Drewer.
Was moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Drewer, that the following minutes are hereby adopted. Minutes of the regular council meeting held January 26, 2023. Minutes of a special council meeting held January 28, 2023. And that the following minutes are hereby acknowledged. Minutes of the health and safety meeting held January 19th, 2023. And minutes of a Board of Health meeting held October 27th, 2023.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's this 2020. No, there you go. That's good.
My agenda is not matching what you guys are. Not the agenda I had last night, but it's dated for February 14th.
Well,
Sorry.
yes.
Shouldn't
Councillor.
October 27th be 2022?
Yes, it should.
This one here I can't open at all, but if I
Oh,
go,
that's the
in- oh, okay,
You're on the wrong agenda.
this one?
Yeah.
They won't let me use it
Click on. That's what happens.
because I don't have permission. But yet I had a phone opening it last night. Yeah, fine.
Gonna let Hanji drive for a second. It'll get.
No, that's fine. I opened it through my emails because it
Our
would.
world of, our technological world
Oh, thank
sometimes
you.
gets a little bit messy. We're good now?
We're good.
Thanks, Hanji, and thanks.
Thank you.
We're in business. So any questions or concerns regarding the motion? Yes, Cass?
So, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Gadry pointed out there was an error with the year,
The
so
date,
I've just added to the motion that they're adopted as corrected.
Okay, thank you very much. No other, yes, Councillor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, on that note, with all due respect to our librarian, could we have the CEO librarian spelled properly? It keeps coming up incorrectly, and I think she deserves a good title.
Thank you. So that'll be corrected and it'll be covered under the same amendment that Cass has already done. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Carried. And item number 5 is, we need to get do we need a motion for the consent agenda? Okay,
There isn't one.
there isn't one?
There's no consent. agenda.
There's no, well, there is no consent agenda. Okay, so 0, okay, so no delegations.
No, there.
Okay, and then the closed section, okay. So the item number, we'll move on to item number 7 under new business. We've got a report here from our CAO -2023-05. Chris, can I turn the floor over to you?
Yep.
Please.
Mr. Mayor, can
Oh,
we just
sorry.
go to the motion?
Oh, yeah, we can do a motion. We'll get a mover and a seconder for a motion first. Councillor Rondo and Councillor Gadry.
It was moved by Councillor Rondo and seconded by Councillor Gadry. That council received report CAO 2023-005 as information. And that council create a full-time CBO bylaw officer combined position. And that council direct township staff to begin advertising and hiring for this position.
Chris?
Thank you. So, this matter came up last council meeting and, I had requested that it might be a good idea if I did a little investigation of a report on it, which I've done. I'm not gonna go through the entire report. It's there for your reading, but I am gonna go to the recommendation. And the recommendation is, option 3. And that is to combine the position of CBO and law enforcement officer. And so there's some advantages to doing that. The first one is a combined full-time position as opposed to a contractor position allows for more local control over the incumbent that would fill the position. And that can be advantageous in staff and council meetings. The positions of CBO and bylaw enforcement officer, if you looked at them separately, they complement each other in that they have a natural crossover. An example in some legislative situations. So an example of that is the fire code, which is also part of the Ontario Building Code. Issuing fines that are not now being issued will increase revenues, although that's not why you increase fines, but you have to look at the cost of the position overall. And we're estimating about $15,000 a year in fines to start. The bylaw enforcement part of the position will ensure a higher degree of compliance than what is currently observed in the township, particularly in areas that have a higher level of non-compliance. Most notably with property standards, parking, dogs running at large, that kind of thing. A successful bylaw program will result in better community pride that could result in higher or new investment, more visitors and fair assessment levels. Because if you take the issue of property standards and you have a situation where you have a neighborhood, it could be anywhere, and half that neighborhood is not taking care of the homes and the property standards not being upkept, that affects not just the assessment values in that part of the neighborhood, but the other part of the neighborhood out and brings them down, which shifts the tax responsibility to other areas of the municipality. So this is very key, that there is a connection between good property standards and your assessment levels. And then lastly, while residents may be pleased with the arrangement overall, it will alleviate some burden from the administrative staff, but not a day goes by, we get called more bylaws all the time. And sometimes it's not very pleasant to try and explain to people we don't have anybody doing enforcement. On the financial side, and chart 2 there, you can see sort of what it would look like in 2023. revenues of between $115,000 and $120,000, which includes $100,000 in building permits. And that's relatively based on the continuance of the increases from previous years. On the cost side, your wages and benefits are your biggest costs, totaling about $106,000 all in. And then depending on what you get for your bylaw enforcement or your building official, you may require to have a mentorship program. So I've included $15,000 in there for that, just to be safe. That may not be required if we get the right person. And all that in, you're looking at a net deficit of about $1,400. So for all that in, it's costing you $1,400 to do this dual position. Now, there's one thing Cass and I talked about today, and that is we didn't include a vehicle in there. We don't have any vehicle for a bylaw enforcement CBO. We would have to look at that. I'm suggesting if we go ahead and advertise for this position at some time, it's gonna take several months to get somebody in place. So we'd probably bring something back to council in terms of a vehicle, at least for the rest of the year, and look into 2024 for something more permanent. So that's pretty much it. I think it was important for council to hear all the information with respect to that, as opposed to sort of just doing sort of policy on the fly.
Question, yes, Councilor.
I read the report last night, and then under normal circumstances, had we had consistent bylaw officer enforcing in the last 3-4 years, I'd agree with the combined, but because whoever's going to be coming in, he or she's gonna have their hands full, bringing everything back to par, because people for the last 3-4 years have gone without enforcement and been able to do whatever they want. He's gonna have his hands full on top of having the other position of building and permits and all that. I'm wondering for this term, if it's not better if they're separate till everything's back on cue. Because
Okay.
I'm afraid it's gonna be overwhelming for this person who's gonna do both jobs. And then one's gonna suffer than the other, and most likely gonna be the bylaw enforcement part of it, because he's gonna be busy with building inspections and whatever else.
Yeah, I don't overly disagree with you. The bylaw enforcement position is the more difficult of the two to do. It takes a special person to do it.
Absolutely.
You run into all kinds of individuals and pushbacks and that type of thing. One of the things that we could do, be a little more expensive, obviously.
Yeah, I
is
understand
keep the
that,
city
yeah.
On as our CBO.
Yeah.
And include in that the mentorship portion of it,
Mhm.
right? And I'm sure the city will be okay with it. I don't know what the cost would end up being, but I'm gonna suggest it's probably gonna be in the same neighborhood. Provided we get the right individual in
Yeah.
position, right? So, splitting it outright is probably not the best way to go. What I would do is I would advertise for, I'll call it a bylaw enforcement / interim or intern CBO. So the person has that opportunity
Okay.
to upgrade, right? Because otherwise you just have to go back out, and what are you gonna do if you hire bylaw enforcement and they're not right for the CBO position?
Yeah.
Right? So that's sort of what I would do, and focus more on the bylaw enforcement until we get things in order. It's not a bad observation.
And as for the vehicle, would it not be an option, just advertise it that they have to use their own vehicle, but the mileage will be paid? Wouldn't that be cheaper in the long run than buying a vehicle for the bylaw officer?
You said that to me, I wouldn't do it.
No,
No.
because I did home care, we were paid when we had to use our own vehicles, and we
We
get paid
we
mileage.
can
for it.
ask, absolutely, we can ask.
I'm just trying to find a cheaper option than getting a vehicle for the bylaw officers, which we don't have right now. I mean, 70 cents a kilometer might be cheaper than
Yeah,
an actual
I mean,
vehicle payment.
to me, that's a small detail, but
Yeah.
we can certainly ask up front, and then moving into 2024, we look at it a
Yeah.
little different. So yes, we can do that.
Thank you for that, Councilor Rondo. And I've seen Councilor DeMarco had put his hand up.
Yes, your worship, to the CEO. Building permit timeline now. Are we on
On schedule.
schedule with it? Like, what's the waiting period for building permits now?
I think we're pretty good at issuing, our CBO from Timmins, everything is done remotely, right? So I'm not receiving any complaints about that at all. And, you know, with that cloud permit system that I talked about last time, once we got that into the public, I think they're gonna be issued on an awful lot quicker basis. So, but Counselor, I don't, I'm not aware of any problems with the issuance of building permits.
Okay, we're not looking at making the one we have now, the CDO we have now. Bylaw officer,
Well, he would certainly be welcome to apply for the position.
but then would he still be part of him?
Well, no, not if he applied for the position.
We need somebody full time.
So it would be preferable that if we're gonna go down this road, that we have somebody that is reporting directly to us. It just gives you more control over the position.
Any other questions from council? If there are none, I was just gonna make one comment after my discussions today with Cass and Chris. Is that I'd like to see the resolution amended slightly. Since I think there's some slight issues on the side, as much as I want to see somebody in position sooner than later. There is some issues, and I don't know if we need to speak to them right at the moment, but there's some issues regarding the whole process of where this individual will sit, whether it's regular administration union, wherever, and then some of this needs to be sorted out first before we actually hire somebody. So whether or not it's a time, I think it would be great if council would approve, and I'm fully in favor of myself in saying that it would be good if council would approve this motion. But possibly with the slight amendment that we defer the actual over hiring until we're prepared. Would that be the right way to approach it, Chris?
Oh, posting for it.
Posting. If council is willing to look at that, amendment, then move in a seconder. Councillor Rondo and Councillor Gaddy, would you be willing to accept an amendment?
And just sorry, your worship.
Yes, please.
The treasurer has included the funds in the budget. It's already there. So.
And I see Councillor Neil put his hand up. Yes.
Just a quick question, Mayor. When we go to Chris, so when we look at it now, with the amendment you're talking about is posting to still go up? Because as far as where this person will sit is something that can be decided what kind of timeline are we looking where they would be?
Well, one of the issues, Counselor, is that we don't know how much this position is going to be paid. That is now in the hands of our compensation person. She is looking at that, but there's an additional complication. I was informed a week or so ago from CUPE that the position is unionized, and I said, no, it's not. I said, right here in the CBA, it says it's not. But they had some letter, which I've never seen, and so we're gonna have
Starting to do.
Yeah, we're gonna have some sorting to do with them. Negotiations are coming up for 29th and 30th of March. So I've already spoken to the negotiator, so we're gonna get that sorted out. So, you know, if we delay it for 45 days or so, I don't see any real harm in doing that. If it's gonna get us a better result at the end of the day.
Yes, Councillor DeMarchi.
Through your worship, CAO. Last year we had that outfit, I can't remember the name. From Timmins.
K9.
Whatever. What was the reason for getting rid of them? Was that budget wise, money wise?
They didn't know how to enforce bylaws, frankly. Cass, you.
It was a council decision. Council
Yeah.
cut the level of service from the budget.
Okay. Because I thought they were doing a half decent job, like as far as reporting back what was being done. Am I wrong in that or?
Well, I don't think it's not the level of service that I would have expected. And some things, for example, we had one dog complaint. There was weeks and weeks of time spent on that. It shouldn't have been that way. So I just think if you've got the position in-house, you have more control over that position, as I said, right? So.
Thank you. Yeah, Cass.
Also, if you remember, Councillor DeMarchi, we were limited with the enforcement that they were doing. So there was no animal control services when it came to PADS K9. The individual they had provided to us couldn't provide us with that service. So that eliminated trying to control the dog bylaw. And then there were other small bylaws that they weren't able to enforce due to technicalities. So every time we try to move forward, there was an issue.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. Councillor Drew.
Through your worship to the CAO, is there not another outside company that we could possibly be looking at to
You
come
could,
in?
you could, there's probably all kinds of companies that can offer you that.
Like
that
you
service.
said, pets, I personally seen them in Whole Tire. And no, I have to agree, I'm sorry with last council to get rid of them because they weren't really doing anything, just driving around.
Yeah, so it comes back to the same thing that Councillor DeMarchi was talking about. If you're gonna contract, you have, your only hold over them is the contract that you've got in place, which from their perspective is not gonna be as detailed as if we had the employee in-house. Right?
Okay.
So yes, the answer to your question is yes.
Like,
There are other firms.
is there anyone like we can bring in on a temporary basis until we can set our own?
Yeah, we can probably.
You know, so
find
we
somebody
can
to do that.
start getting some of these bylaws taken care of, start getting some of this stuff taken care of that's been pushed to the
It's
curb.
getting out of control.
Because there is a lot. I know in Raymore, like, I'm getting phone calls
Well, I got
all hours now.
Give you an example. I got a phone
And-
call today, about Whole Tire, about somebody that left a piece of machinery in the middle of the road, which is difficult for, snow removal, right? So I don't have any authority to do anything about it. So I called the OPP and they're gonna go down and have a look at it because it's a highway traffic act issue.
It has
right?
been moved.
Good. So, so yes, we can look around as an interim measure. But, I always want to keep my eye on the cost too, right? And I would remind council too, that we did make the issuance of fines easier by moving to administrative monetary penalty system. Which stays within the municipality. It doesn't go to the court. You get a fine, there's a local referee. And the referee looks at that and they have some authority to do things. They can't dismiss it outright. If the people don't pay, then it goes on their taxes. And you don't want that because then it's like a lien on your house, right? So, so it actually is a much better system for
I like
us to
that
deal with.
system.
Yeah.
So, but we can, Counselor, we can look around and see what's available.
But just even if it's just on an interim.
Yeah, no, I
basis,
get it, yeah.
Like for 3 to 6 months, let's say,
So we
because like you said, it could be months before we find anybody.
Yep.
So even if it's just on a temporary basis, so we can start getting some of these bylaws and some of these, building codes and everything under control, so as, the other counselor said, then you're not gonna bring someone new in and have them bombarded. There's already stuff gonna be in place.
So the building code is not the issue. The CBO is,
No.
he does a decent job. So it's the bylaws and I understand it. So the good thing is that we have the position in the budget from the beginning of the year. So the monies that we're not using on a full-time position right now that we can actually use to look at something interim. So give me a week or so and I'll, by the next council meeting, I can probably have some information for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that exchange. Councillor Diamond, I seen your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report that's on the table, I am still in favor of option 3. And the reason being that I'd like to take baby steps towards where we're trying to get at. Unfortunately, if we spend too much on a contracted CBO and enough on a bylaw officer, come budget time in a month or 2 months or 3 months time, I think we're all gonna be sadly mistaken when we have huge amount of expenses and very little income. So I think, in my opinion, we start small and get there because something's gonna have to give come budget time.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments or questions? If not, did we make the amendment, Cass?
No, so there's, if I can, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
make a
please.
comment. So because there's a lot of differences of opinion, I suggest that we actually move a motion to amend. So the original motion's on the table and I can reread it if council wants me to, but then someone should move to amend the motion to what they would like the motion to read. So I'll just reread the motion for council to hear it and then someone can move for the amendment. And it has to be someone different from Councillor Rondo and
Okay,
Councillor
thank you.
Gattery. So it was moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Gattery, that council received report CAO 2023-005 as information. And that council create a full-time CBO bylaw officer combined position. And that council direct township staff to begin advertising and hiring for this position.
And we're gonna do another. And can I ask for a mover and a seconder that'd be willing to amend that? Moved by Councillor Neal and Councillor Drewer.
And what does the amendment read?
My own suggestion is that we just defer the, Chris, I'm just gonna ask for your opinion on this. Should we actually start the posting now or just say we're gonna defer the whole posting of the position until we've got the negotiations sorted out or the,
Well, my suggestion would be to amend the motion by removing that last part about the advertising,
okay,
because we don't even know what's gonna be paid yet, right? So,
so it'd be good to wait.
yeah, and that's what I'm suggesting. Once we have the number, then we can start putting some posting out there and get people. As I said, I think it's gonna take a while to get somebody.
Well, that's what I mean. I agree with Council Drewer. Can we not have somebody on contract in the meantime? Because it's getting bad.
And if you don't mind, I would just like to comment, I mean, that is something that we'd have to bring back and we can
Yeah.
discuss. But as long as we can agree that we're gonna start moving forward towards that, and I think I see the will of council to start doing that, and let's just see if we can deal with this amendment first, so. The amendment would be just to remove the advertising portion. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, so if that's the case, council strictly just voting on that amendment, and then the original motion will be read again for council to make their final vote on the original motion.
Okay, do I need to move it?
Nope, not right now.
Okay, we can go with that, okay.
The amendment's
We
still
got
on the table.
So, Councilor DeMarco, you had a question?
Yes, your worship, shouldn't the person that made the motion say what they want amended?
Yes, Cass?
My understanding is the amendment is I'm removing the last sentence. So the mover and the seconder have agreed to discuss moving the last sentence of the motion.
Okay, so they don't necessarily have to say what they want to amend on that.
No, we're just gonna remove that one line.
Okay.
So we can move ahead with that as a vote then, or we're good now? Yes, Cass?
And it's only to educate council. So you
Please.
can have more than one amendment. The current amendment on the table right now is removing that last sentence. Once that amendment has been voted on, if council wants to put another amendment on the table, you can. There's no limit to the amendments, but one amendment at a time. Okay?
So if I can, I'd like to ask for a vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried.
If I could, maybe I
Yes,
would
yes,
suggest
please.
a motion that directs the CAO to get some information on the interim, and I'll bring it back to the next meeting.
Yes.
We'll do another motion on that, but we'll do this one first, finish this,
Well,
or we're good.
if I can, just to
Yes,
complicate
please,
it and
Cass.
make the council meeting a lot more fun, why don't we table another amended motion that I add that sentence to the original
You
motion?
could,
And that's fine. Let's do it. I'm always good with whatever Cassandra suggests. It usually keeps me out of jail and out of trouble.
I need a mover and a seconder, Mr. Mayor, for the second amended.
Councilor Gathering, Councilor DeMarchi. And we'll let Cassandra get her penmanship going here and her wordsmithing, and we'll put something together that'll make some sense to all of us, I'm sure. Cassandra's lucky. She can write and actually read what she writes. I have to print what I want, or else I can't read.
And you realize every time you speak, you ruin my train of thought.
Well, that's okay, but I'm good at that too. That's fun. You said you wanted the meeting to be more fun. As long as nobody loses the night.
that's correct.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Cass.
Okay, so I've written it on the fly. We'll see if.
It'll be good.
Okay, so this is an amendment to add to the original motion. So the second amendment is that, and that council direct the CAO to seek an outside agency to assist with bylaw enforcement in the interim of the hiring of the full-time bylaw CBO position.
That information gets brought back to 28.
And to bring that information back to our next council meeting. Sound right?
Provided the mover and the second, okay.
Well, yeah, we'll make sure of that before we actually call for a vote.
It's your council meeting.
Is that minor amendment to the amendment okay with the mover and seconder?
I can reread it, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
please, Cass.
So amendment number 2, moved by Councillor Gaddery, seconded by Councillor DeMarchi, and that council direct the CAO to seek an outside agency to assist with bylaw enforcement in the interim of the hiring of the full-time bylaw CBO position, and that the CAO bring back the outside agency options to a subsequent council meeting.
Sounds good to me. Is that all good with the mover and seconder?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
okay with that.
Good, thank you. Then I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? No objection, carried. Need some more of my tomorrow signing.
So, Mr. Mayor, we still have the original motion on the table.
Okay. You're not gonna let me get away with it, tell you.
So I'll reread.
Please read it again because that was about an hour ago.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Gaddery, that council receive report CAO 2023 as information, and that council create a full-time CBO bylaw officer combined position, and that council direct the CAO to seek an outside agency to assist with bylaw enforcement in the interim of the hiring of the full-time bylaw CBO position, and that the CAO bring back the outside agency options to a subsequent council meeting.
Thank you very much, Cass. Too many rules, but we have to follow them. So thank you very much for keeping us online. All those in favor?
What did she say?
Seeing no objection. Dan, Councilor DeMarchi would like to extend the meeting even longer. Don't blame me. All right,
Train station.
we got that one finally done.
Going back to the train station.
And our next item under new business is item 7B. And it's our CBO bylaw.
No, Mr. Mayor.
No, it's not.
No, it's the relocation.
Okay, sorry, I was at. I thought we were at CBO.
We already been sued.
That's
I
what
thought we were doing the other. Okay, that was the full bylaw, okay.
I think we played that one out.
So then we're gonna do C, so we're gonna, okay, so sorry about that, everybody. Okay, Cass keeps me under control.
Somebody has to.
Yes. Item B is an item regarding our relocation of council meetings. And I'll ask, did you want to clarify that for everybody?
I will,
please,
but
Cass?
first, Mr. Mayor, you'll get moving a seconder.
Yes, moving a seconder, I've got Councilor Drewer and Councilor Gaddery.
So it was moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Gaddery, that council relocate the council chambers
Again,
from the Matheson Library to the old municipal building effective February 28th, 2023. To allow the CEO librarian to plan events and provide rental revenue space.
any question or concern? Yes, Councilor DeMarchi.
Oh, sure. Your worship, I got a real problem with that because we moved out of that building because of mold and everything else. It was an unhealthy place for everybody to work. Now we're gonna invite the public to come to our meetings in a moldy building. Why don't we use the family lodge or Shillington Hall or the curling club instead, where there's no mold?
Even a Pioneer Hall in Raymond.
Pioneer Hall,
Can
where,
Chris or Cassandra or both maybe comment on this? Chris, Cassandra, pick one.
Technology is gonna be the issue, right?
So if I can, so Councillor DeMarchi, I completely understand. Appreciate for staff, this is also a lot of work to constantly be moving. When it comes to your comment about inviting the public into the building, I understand it's not accessible, but neither is all the rest of your buildings other than the arena. That is also why we are YouTubing live stream. Now, I recognize not everyone has the internet, but we're trying to be as inclusive as possible with the options we have. When you mention the halls, now these halls are rented out to other groups and parties. And we don't want these halls to feel like they can't make rental revenue because we can appreciate everyone struggling from a financial point of view. But we leave equipment and we also leave the chambers, if you will, the unofficial chambers set up. We don't want them constantly playing with the setup of your chambers, if you will, and of course our equipment. So that makes staff a little uncomfortable. At least at the old building, I hear you about the aesthetic of it and the fact that it's not accessible. But another problem is also internet. So we have to have internet for council one to accept, to access your agenda. We can provide with paper copies, but that just becomes cumbersome.
Yep.
And of course, we're trying to live stream our council meetings to make it more inclusive for the people who can't necessarily make it out of their home, come into the building, or they just want to sit in the comfort of their home with a glass of wine and watch our meetings. So it's a temporary
You know,
fix.
she was doing that when it was virtual.
It's a temporary fix, Councillor DeMarchi. It's not the best option. I just feel like it's our only option.
Okay, I was just mainly concerned. Because we spent so much money on the new building. That we're gonna hear a lot of flack about using the old building.
Because of the
we
health and
said the
safety
reason for
concern?
buying the new one was because the old one wasn't
Yeah.
fit for people to be in, so
Uh,
we're gonna wear it.
I hear your concern. And has that actually been dealt with? Is there any way to actually confirm that the building is still safe for our use for that period? Never mind the public. I'm a little worried about my whole council. I don't want to put you on the spot, Cass or Chris, but it's a valid question.
Do an air testing. We could do an air testing. Oops.
So do we need to have a plan B here?
I don't know what council's plan B is, though.
Is.
Yes,
the hall-
Councilor Ronda.
Is the Pioneer Hall not equipped with Wi-Fi? And they probably have a little storage room, you could probably put some of the stuff, I know they only have darts on the weekend, on Wednesdays, I think. Other than that, I don't think the hall gets used unless it gets rented out for an actual event, and it's wheelchair accessible.
The only other comment I was gonna make is, are we getting I know we moved out of the arena for almost the same reason we're moving out of here. Is to allow for rentals and usage
Mhm.
for the facility itself. But I'm just wondering exactly how much rentals we're actually bringing into the arena. Especially with the fact that we're gonna have to bring internet services and stuff back into the old building and on and on and on. And if we do have an issue, maybe we're better off just to move right back to the upstairs of the arena and just say, you know what? Let's do without those few minor rentals. Yes, Cass.
Okay, just on that note, though, Mayor Bender, in one hand, I hear council wanting to develop recreation programs, and we need a space for these recreation programs. So I don't want to tie up the hall in order for the assistant rec director, give her the opportunity to use that hall for putting on programs. I just think we have to either go back to the old building or look at a hall, but I'm just leery about one of our halls.
I am too, to be honest with you. Yes, Councilor Diamond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two other locations can I throw out for ideas would be maybe a room in the hospital
Yeah.
or upstairs at the fire hall.
They're all probably a better option.
Yeah,
There's-
Well, yeah.
Stairs here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right there,
you
these
should
stairs.
accept it.
The hospital.
And yet use stairs in your arena too.
The other thing you can do too is.
They got the elevator.
Recreation.
Yeah.
Family lunch.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a suggestion, 'cause I see there is concerns. And we're in a little bit of a quandary where we have to make some kind of a decision, I realize that. But maybe it would be good to allow Cass and our CAO and our Madam Clerk here to actually have a little bit of time to maybe reconsider and take a look at some options, because I was gonna support the move back to the old building as much as having to wear the pain, which is only partially my pain because I wasn't part of that decision. And I don't want to point fingers, Councilor DeMarchi, but at the end of the day, the decisions were made for whatever reason they were made. And they were made for what was supposed to be the right reasons, and we have to live with all past decisions. And move forward instead of worrying about what happened in the past and what everybody's gonna think or not think. We have to make something work, but it sounds like as if even the discussion, the question about the health and safety may still be a question. So would it be not wise maybe just to leave this and make a decision over the next week and just let council know where we're gonna set up? Yes, council or Cass. I was gonna make her a counselor now to get her in real trouble.
So what I can suggest to council is, so with 2/3 of the members present, you can actually just remove a motion from the table unless you want something on record to defer it. But you could just remove the motion from the table and let us put on our thinking caps again and bring back another option for council.
Yes, Councillor Neil?
I'm just thinking for, even for here, the purpose is again for rental. Is it against policy for the township to pay a rental for the use of the lot, this room as library? I know it's part of the township, but could there be funds transferred as far as using this until we have another location?
Cass?
It'll increase your levy, like it's not because obviously you're gonna. Actually, it would cancel it out. It's just shifting of monies.
Yeah, it'd be a counting line. item.
Yes, it would be.
But I still personally, and I mean, I'm not gonna try to overrule council. It's council's decision here, not mine. The suggestion I think that Cass made to actually remove this motion from the floor might be an excellent idea and give Cassandra and Chris and staff a bit of time to figure out a better plan, a plan that actually really works. Would the majority of council be okay with that kind of an idea? If we remove the motion, I guess I can call for a vote to ask, but yeah, yes, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, what about at the museum? Can we not utilize the museum?
There's no room in there.
Yes, Cass.
That was one of our options, Councillor George. There's not enough room. There's not enough room for a council, like for council to sit and then to even try to provide room for the public.
So I hear lots of people with ideas and thoughts, so obviously we've got ideas and thoughts and nothing that really makes 100% sense yet, so
So it's not necessarily a vote, just a show of hands that they agree to remove the
Okay.
motion.
Could I get a show of hands of 2/3 of council to see if we'd be willing to remove this motion? See, so done. We actually had unanimous. Thank you.
No problem.
I think it makes more sense than us beating our gums for. Where are we here? Our next item is item D. And it's gonna be a motion regarding the adjustment of the mileage rate. Yes, item C. Item C. No, we just did item C. Relocation of council meeting.
No.
That was B.
Mine says C, how come?
You're seeing this right here?
Oh, sorry,
It's okay, you'll get used to it. The height
sooner or
of-
later, yeah. Sorry, it's item C. Anyway, it's still the same motion. We're gonna, it's an adjustment to the mileage rate. And I need a mover and a seconder again. I got Councillor Gadry and Councillor Drewer. They got the quickest hands on the right.
Moved by Councillor Gaddery and seconded by Councillor Drewer, that council adjusts the mileage paid to any member of council, committee, board, or staff to 70 cents per kilometer for travel within or outside of the municipality for purposes of Township of Black River Matheson business.
Questions or concerns? Yes, Councillor DeMarkey,
Your worship, the treasurer, or the clerk. Treasurer.
pick one.
What effect is this gonna have on budget?
Yes, Cass.
So we'll have an effect on budget, Councillor DeMarkey, because at the last budget, we were budgeting at 95 cents a kilometer. This is now 70 cents a kilometer. So the mileage budget, if you will, for council and for staff will go down as long as we don't up the amount of people going to training. Because then obviously mileage will go up.
Down is good.
Down's always good. Except for revenues. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
No other questions or concerns? All those in favor? Carried. Seeing no objections, carried. We got a motion after you. There we go.
I'm gonna take this back.
You like that one, eh? No. Yeah. Now we're gonna go to item D. It's a motion to amend something previously adopted, resolution 2022-071 regarding the Phenom Conference. Need a mover and a seconder again. Councillor Drewer and Councillor Gaddery again. Sorry, Councillor Rondo, I didn't see your hand because I'm blind on the left. Plus, I wasn't looking that way in case that better issue came up.
It was moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Gaddery. 2022-71, that council approve of the following individuals to attend the 2023 annual Phenom Conference in Parry Sound, Ontario on May 8th, 2023. Councillor Drewer and Councillor Neil, and that we add Mayor Bender.
And just for council's information, after Roma and discussions with the CAO, Chris, I've kind of come to the conclusion that as much as I do like to stay home sometimes, and I definitely don't like to waste taxpayers' dollars, and I definitely won't. But I think it's important that the head of council actually attends these the major conferences. But anytime I go to a major conference, and I intend to follow that to the letter, is that we're gonna present a delegation to a minister or a ministry at every major conference. As you'll see in my report that I filed on the Roma, and that's just the reason why I've asked to have my name attached. Yes, Councillor Neil.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to withdraw from attending, just for the sake of cost. I think two council, yourself and another council member going, I think that's enough representation. I think if we start sending too many more people, that's just an expected extended cost. I'm okay with perfectly fine, so I'd like to withdraw if that's not too late for me to do
You're
that.
gonna go to Hawaii?
That's not the same time though, but I just thought for the sake of cost, I would be happy to withdraw.
And if that, and I apologize if I'm making you feel like you need I don't want to do that. I just know and watch how these conferences run. And when you show up as a delegation, it's important that the head of council is there. It seems to be what the ministers and everybody are looking for, whether or not there's one position more important than another. It's not that, it's just what they seem to be looking for. And I think it's important for the municipalities growth and its position with the government that they see our interest. And if we don't keep showing up with interest, and I mean, not just showing up, as much as these conferences are very good learning experience and very good for network and the rest of the other good stuff, if we're going there for the right reasons, I think every tax dollar spent is well spent. That's enough of my babblicious, but I just wanted to put my point out there. Councillor DeMarchi.
Your worship, I would like to have a timeline set for report back from these meetings and stuff, so that it's brought back to council and not just put on the back burner, that we know what went on at these conferences.
I agree, and I apologize. If I wouldn't have been away on vacation, you would have had it even sooner, but I've actually provided a report. Has it been distributed to council yet?
No, the agenda was released.
Oh, okay, so, but anyway, there is a report that I'll actually have. Maybe what we can actually even do is Sandra can actually just distribute that to the council at some point, or even I can, I don't care, it doesn't matter. I'll actually distribute it to you all, and so that you have it, and it doesn't have to be showing up at a meeting, and it can show up at a later meeting and be approved at a meeting and it's accepted. But at least then you'll have the information that I provided, because I apologize and I was away for a week and I couldn't even do it while I was away, so I ended up doing it when I got home, so. But I agree, and I plan on every committee and every meeting I go to, there will be a report.
Can we make it a motion? Can I make a motion on that it be brought back within, say, within 2 meetings kind of thing?
Cass, your comments, please?
My only comments, Mr. Mayor, was yes, let's deal with the motion on the table, and then if you'd like to table another motion afterwards.
Okay.
Because if this is a specific procedural motion, we can amend this motion. So if once we finish with this motion, you can table your motion, Councillor DeMarchi.
So can you reread the slight amendment that we've made, or should we need to saying
The
that?
amendment is as simple as removing Councillor Neil and adding Mayor Bender.
Okay, so it's as simple as that is, so if council's familiar now and remembers, all those in favor? Carried. And then we're down into reports, correct?
So Mayor Bender?
Yes.
Councillor DeMarchi has his hand.
Oh, sorry, Councilor DeMarchi, I forgot about you and your new motion. Yes, Councilor
Table a
DeMarchi.
motion, your worship.
Yes, Councilor DeMarchi, you
I'd like to
may.
table a motion that
Just give Cass 2 seconds here and then she'll actually start writing. Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to table a motion that within, after a conference, within 2 meetings, that a report be brought back to the second meeting after the conference, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Madam Clerk?
I guess that's better than something loosely worded that says in a timely fashion, because obviously timely fashion doesn't seem to really work, right?
Doesn't work at all.
And I agree that we're gonna entertain this motion in whichever way Cass puts it together, but like I said earlier. Like I've even spoken to Chris about this before, is that I intend, like any commit, especially the major committees like DSAB and so on and so forth. But I think it's necessary for the council member or council members, mayor, whatever, that are representing municipality in these boards. Bring back a report of some nature following the meeting, that it doesn't have to be at super high level or complicated, even if it's a verbal report, just as long as a report to council on what's going on where tax dollars are being spent.
I'm sure residents would appreciate it.
Yes,
Mhm.
I agree. Yes, Cass.
Is the motion strictly for workshops
You mean conferences,
or conferences?
strictly for conferences? Cass,
Mainly
Markey?
conferences, yes.
That's a concern as council or as conference.
I didn't catch it, Mr. Mayor. I only have a mover. Is there a seconder?
We'll go with Councilor Drewer again.
Okay, so I've done one on the
Good,
fly.
that's good.
Maybe a little rough, but. Moved by Councillor DeMarchi, seconded by Councillor Drewer, that council report back within 2 council meetings following the attendance of any municipal conferences.
Suitable, Councilor DeMarchi?
She writes good, your worship.
I agree. And I never question anything that Cass does up till now. We'll keep it like that. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried.
That report will be in the inbox. Beauty of technology.
You sending my report out?
I am.
Thank you. I made sure I gave it to the other wordsmith to make sure I didn't make too big of a mess, since he was actually there too, honest.
But it will also be on the next agenda.
Yes. Sorry, Cass.
It's okay, Mr. Mayor. So there was an addition to the agenda. So Councillor DeMarchi had added,
7E? or-
yes,
And what was that? What was that addition?
it was concerning the ice resurfacer.
Oh, okay, there was, yeah. You had an item that you wanted to add to the agenda regarding the ice resurfacer, Councilor DeMarchi?
Yes, your worship, 7E. That open for discussion?
Yes, your question or your concern or,
Yeah, we went ahead and purchased this apparently, and it wasn't brought to council at all, no discussion on it whatsoever.
Sure it was.
When,
Last council.
Hmm?
So part of the
report.
part of the money that we got from the GCIB fund, which was $888,000. It's an 80% funding to put to buy a new resurfacer, to buy a new ice plant, and to buy new compressors. And also to install a solar voltaic system that would run the arena as opposed to on a net metering basis, as opposed to relying on the grid.
so this is on 2022 budget or 2023 budget?
Yep,
or-
2022. Well, it'll spill over to 2023 as well, simply because we haven't.
Because of spending.
Well, the only thing we haven't committed to yet, I'm still working with the company, is the solar voltaic systems.
Sounds pretty high tech, whatever that is.
Yeah, well, basically what it is we'll have 2 solar mirrors, not beside the arena. They'll sort of be at the back of the arena. And they will take solar energy and feed it into the arena to run the arena. When there is no sun, then the arena will draw from the grid. And folks may not know it, but there's 3 transformers across the street going towards the river. And so there'll be a line that runs from there into the meter. So while the solar is feeding into the grid, we get credit for that. When we draw, we pay for it. So it's called net metering. And I've asked the company to give me a schedule on how much electricity costs we would save. But the federal government loves it. They love that. They love the EV for the Zamboni as well. So, when you think about it, a Zamboni that runs fossil fuels probably 110,000. An EV is probably 140,000, but we just scored 80% of that from the feds. So really, it really is to our benefit.
So are we selling the old one?
Yeah, that would be the plan after everything's in place.
Okay.
Which will give us some additional cash.
So 80% of it was paid for by the government.
Feds, yeah.
What was our cost? 20%.
Probably for the Zamboni, you're probably looking at about $38,000.
And then the other
Off
solar
the
stuff.
top of my head, I I can't tell you. I'll include that in my next monthly report. It's. I can't remember the cost of the ice plant and the compressor, but. Essentially, if you're getting 888,000. Then the additional on top of that is the 20% that we have to pay. So. These are assets that we're gonna have to replace anyway, so we might as well use 80% of the federal government's money to do it.
Okay. It sits all right with me as long as we utilize the arena as much as we possibly can. And that may even look at closing the outside rinks. Because they don't generate any money.
Well, they've been
whatsoever.
closed for a long time right now, and that's another problem, but that's another discussion for another day. But regarding, does that cover your questions regarding the Zamboni?
I just, maybe if I could.
Yes, Chris.
Just Councillor DeMarquis, so I think what we need to think about is we are seeing some come back on the use of the arena. But we got to remember, we were also 2 years in COVID where we had virtually no use. And so right now we're going back looking at utilization prior to that. And you also have to remember the township did not have a recreational promotional department. We didn't do anything. So it's just out of luck that people were renting. So now we're starting to put some things in place, hopefully to attract people. There are people calling about hockey tournaments and other uses, family uses and whatnot. This is a good thing. So now we can start promoting it as well.
And if we get our new motel, that'll also be great.
Thank you.
So that covered that off. There was no motion required, so thank you very much. Chris, Cassandra, and Dan. Where are we? Might have lost me. There we are. Okay, we're gone down into item 8A. It's the Aqua Quarterly Operations Report regarding the Matheson drinking water and wastewater systems. Okay, and we've actually got Aqua on the line to actually speak to us.
So I'll need a mover and a seconder.
Need a mover and a seconder. I got Councillor Gattering and Councillor DeMarquis.
Moved by Councillor Gattery, seconded by Councillor DeMarquis, that council receive the Aqua Quarterly Operations Report as information.
And we'll open the floor to our friends from Aqua. I see one of our friends. I recognize the one face.
Good day, everybody. Chris Shiraka, Senior Operations Manager for Ontario Clean Water Agency, and we also have our team lead, Alex Mano, for the area. So we're just attending here. If you have any questions that you may pose, that you would like to pose, we're here to answer any questions in relation to the fourth quarter report.
Council, any questions regarding the report? See no questions. Is there questions from Cass or?
I have no questions, Mr. Mayor.
I think I'm never an expert at this. I mean, and my understanding is everything looks good on the report, and I don't see any issues in the Matheson drinking water report. So is there any comments from either one of you two gentlemen?
Yeah, so I'd just like to provide to Mayor and Council, other than the unforeseen water main breaks and some of the low pressure and no water issue that has caused, everything is running up fairly smoothly on our end. So we've been keeping in touch with both Cassandra and Chris on any items that may arise, keep everybody up to check and in tune with what's happening. We also conduct our monthly operations meeting where we give an overview of what's transpired, any issues, anything else that may come up during that period of time. We have good staff in our area here, and everything's been keeping up to snuff very well. We've also provided a copy of our 2023 capital budget for review for your senior administrators. And we'll also be sitting down with them next week, if I recall correctly, to start going through that process. So overall, everything's doing pretty good on our end. So if there's any questions, again, we're here to answer and clarify anything.
No other questions or concerns from council? And if there's nothing further from you two gentlemen, well, thank you very much for your time and efforts and consideration, and we'll let you go. Oh, sorry. Oh, there was a question I didn't see. Sorry.
It's not
Councillor.
about the report, but only about the bulletin that was issued today for the Hull Tire water loss. Any news on that? What's causing it?
So through the mayor to Councillor Rondo, if I'm correct. Yeah.
Floor is open, gentlemen.
Okay, So we anticipate, so the whole tire system is not a large capacity system. So we're not exactly sure. There's a consumer somewhere or a couple of consumers that are pulling water on the odd circumstance that is resulting our main well to be utilized to its maximum production. So that's why we've issued the conservation notice, and we've also contacted the town as well to hand out those notices in person. I have discussed with the CAO, if this continues to happen, we would like to potentially request the township to do an investigation in respects of just a couple of people or a public works individual going door to door. It could be anything as a water softener stuck on, or somebody worried about their taps freezing, but they have their water cranked on way too much. And we know it's not a water leak at the moment because we see the spike in water usage, and there's a direct correlation in the wastewater collection. So if you would have a leak, say in a roadway or something of that nature, you wouldn't see the capacity then be utilized in your collection system. So it's hard to really pinpoint, but if you have a couple of users pulling a lot of water, this is what happens with the whole tire system. The well is just not designed in to have a large scale capacity.
Okay, thank you, because I thought maybe like there might have been a water main, because we have a lot of old buildings and we have one vacant one that seems to have, that's been vacant for 2 years and seems to have somebody moving into it. So I'm wondering if the water was turned on and there's a water main break there because there was no heat in that building for 2+ years.
And that's
If somebody turned on that water, is that the issue? Is there
and that's a
leak?
possibility too, where we would like to see with this conservation notice, if we don't see a decrease within another couple of days, we would be discussing with the township on having somebody go door to door to just kind of investigate those matters. It's as simple sometimes as seeing a potentially flooded out basement in a vacant residence if the curb stop is not turned off. But at times there are different things that could happen too. The line could fracture, etc. So there's endless possibilities. But both the township and ourselves are working together to ensure that there's no risk on the capacity aspect, and we do got secondary measures to prevent that as well.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions or concerns from council? No, nothing else, we're good.
Nope, but if Councilor Rondo just read the address after the meeting. Because I've seen the same as Mr. Chirac, I've seen that too happen.
And I'm
So-
willing to bet it was turned on by not by the township.
Yeah, we've had.
That's my theory is going behind that
I'm
one.
more concerned the water was turned on and there's a break inside the.
That's what I'm thinking too, because
We
it's
can
happened
follow.
twice. And it's all within the same time frame as we've seen action in that specific building, so.
So if you give me the address after
Yeah.
the meeting. we'll follow
Not a
up.
problem.
All right, well, that's
Perfect.
great. I think we've got everything covered off, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have yourselves a good evening, and I appreciate
Thank you.
everybody's time.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
night.
you.
So, Mr. Mayor, there's still a motion on the table.
Oh, we have a motion on that?
It was just to receive the report as information.
Okay, sorry, but that, could you please read it? Did you read it?
I did, but I can reread it if you'd like.
Well, no, actually, I guess I'm losing it because we started chatting.
Okay.
Anyway, we've got a motion regarding just accepting that report. And if there's, all those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Thanks, Cass. Start dabbling to get off track. And then you have item B, which is,
See. Oh, sorry.
we got B. I'm right for a change, Chris. It doesn't happen often, eh?
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak everything.
Item B is regarding regarding dealing with certain budget matters, and I think we have a report on that, and we need a mover and a seconder on that. And a mover and a seconder, I've got Councillor DeMarchi and Councillor Drewer. Please read the motion, Cass.
Yes, it was moved by Councillor DeMarchi and seconded by Councillor Drewer. That council acknowledges the receipt of report CTT 2023-04 regarding Ontario Regulation 28409 dealing with certain budgetary matters as information.
Yes, Cass.
Council, I don't mind giving a quick explanation about
Please.
the report. So this is a report you're gonna see yearly, and this report you're gonna see around budget times. If you remember the financial training, Danielle, our auditor, spoke about this really quickly. So what this report identifies are certain items that you do not budget for. So you do not budget for post-closure landfill costs. However, you could argue you do have about 200,000 sitting in a landfill reserve that we really don't have a capital plan for. So the argument could be that you have funded half your liability should you choose to close one of your landfills or all of your landfills, and you'd be able to fund it with that $200,000 reserve. However, from a budget perspective, every year we do not fund for those post-closure costs. You do not fund for accumulated depreciation. So any asset that you own, you don't budget for the depreciation value on that asset. What you do is you actually budget through your capital plans, future costs. You don't budget for historical costs. And finally, you don't budget for sick leave. So if an employee who has accumulated some sick leave liability chooses to leave the municipality and we have to pay them out, we don't budget for that, but the liability on the books is extremely low. So you'll see this every year. And again, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs calls every year to find out if we've passed this report.
So we're just following some more of the Municipal Act rules.
Mhm.
Well, thank you very much for that. It helps me understand why a lot of these reports happen too, as much as I've seen them in the past. Any questions or concerns? If not, then I'll ask for a vote. All in favor and no objections, carried. Now,
Now you want to see. I go back up to 2.5.
okay, sorry for that. I was in 8. I tried to move the meeting too fast. 8C. And then we're gonna receive a report regarding township issue from the CAO. Chris, I'll turn the floor over to you regarding your report. I don't know if council wants to. We didn't move in a second here again. First, yes, Councillor Brewer and Councillor DeMarquis.
Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor DeMarquis, that council receives report CAO 2023-04 regarding township issues as information.
Chris, did you want to speak to them or
Yeah, I'm not gonna go through the
No,
whole
no.
report. It's,
go through the highlights maybe? and-
there is, well, everything's a highlight in the report.
I know.
It's 24 pages long. This is an updated report that I provided for the last council around the same time of the year last year, budget time. I would recommend that you read through this maybe more than once. It has some fairly serious issues, some
Yes.
critical issues in it. And it has some issues that are not so critical, but regardless, we still have to pay attention to them. And so I provide this to you for two reasons. Number one, first and foremost, is our discussion about the budget. Because some of these issues influence the budget. Some of them we may not have room in the budget for, and they're much bigger issues. So further to that, in the next, I'll say 30 days or so, we will want to arrange a council meeting where we talk about our master plan. We're in 2023, that plan ends this year. Cassandra and I were through it today, basically, looking at what matters in there we're going to be able to do, and some of them we're not going to be able to do. What we want to do is now kickstart it for the next 4 years or 3.5 years, so that we've got a plan moving forward, so that we know when we come around budget time, we use the plan to help budget. And at the end of every year, we publish a report saying what matters we've accomplished and what we haven't. If you don't have a plan, you're just sort of fumbling around in the dark, you're gonna stub your toe, right? So I'm not gonna suggest that everything in the master plan will get done, but we need to publish it. It needs to be that's the right thing to do. So I'm looking forward to that discussion too, because different set of people at the table will bring some fresh ideas as well. So frankly, the last master plan was pretty, it was, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It was a lot to do. The first year of the plan, we did really well. And then after that, some things
You
fell
know,
off.
all the easy stuff, did you?
Not really. But I want to make sure that the next version of the plan also has good expectations, but it's something that we can implement.
Realistic.
Realistic is the word, absolutely. So anyways, this is for your information, and I just ask you to, if you have questions now, I'm more than willing to answer them, but it's a good document to read.
And I would be, Councillor Neil.
Your worship through to CEO. Do we have a demographic of Matheson as far as BRM for the township, what the demographic is? So one part about the seniors as far as,
Census will give us that.
yeah,
You can also go on our website. We have the community profile there, which is updated as changes occur.
okay,
We have contract with a company that does that, and it will give you all those. If you can't find it, Counselor, just give me a call or give Ponji a call. We can direct you to it. It has tons of great information on it.
okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for the question. Any other question? Yes, Councillor Demarchi.
The question, your worship, for the CEO. How often do they upgrade the population numbers?
5 years,
Every 5 years?
yeah, in the census, yeah.
Where are we at in those 5 years?
We were in the last census, so that was 2000
Last year.
Yeah, last year, we were up 5%. And we were actually, from a percentage perspective, we were better than most communities in northeastern Ontario. And that's 2 successive censuses, if I can use that word, where the Black River Matheson increased in population. So, and that's likely due to the agricultural activity, mostly due to the Mennonites moving in. It's good news.
It's excellent.
Absolutely.
I mean, I wish it was 10% or 15%, but
Well, we can work on that.
Give it
Well, you and I
time.
can.
Wait till those mines start
Yeah,
moving.
wait till the mines
Yeah.
start.
so we have these 2 sort of solitudes that go on here, right? And Cass knows I call it from in Black River Matheson, like from carrots to carrots, carrots of gold to carrots in the ground, right? And so we have this wonderful agricultural community, and then we have this mining community too. And it's odd how the 2 sort of meet, right? So, but it gives us some good opportunities too. And I really like the agricultural area is one where the province is really paying attention, and our Mennonite friends are doing wonderful work in the
Absolutely.
agriculture community. So,
Absolutely.
we want to make sure that we continue that, right?
And be supportive of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
Any other questions? Everybody's happy with that?
Mhm.
We've got the motion on the table
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
and it's been read, and I won't even ask Kath to reread it because I do remember her reading it this time. And I'll ask everybody, all those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And thanks for the fine report, Chris. Appreciate it. And I did read it, but I will read it a few more times because there's a lot of stuff to digest. And I know you and I have a plan how we're gonna deal with some of it.
I will email the test all council after the meeting.
Thank you very much for that.
Hope it's an open book test.
Bring to 90, right? So we're gonna move into our bylaw section 9. And we have item A. It's regarding a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the Corporation of Township of Black River Matheson. I need a mover and a seconder again. I've got Councillor Rondo and Councillor Neil. Had to use my left side.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Neil, that bylaw number 2023-13, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Black River Matheson, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 14th day of February 2023. Nope.
I think it's pretty straightforward unless there's questions or concerns. I'm just gonna ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Anything, I don't know. And the next item is gonna be 9B, and it's a bylaw regarding the interim tax levy. And I will get a mover and a seconder first, just so I don't get too forgetful. Councillor Rondo and Councillor Drewer.
It was moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Drewer, that bylaw number 2023-14, being a bylaw for an interim tax levy, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 14th day of February 2023.
And yes, Cass, could you please just add a little bit of meat and potatoes?
Sure. So council, this is another bylaw you're gonna see yearly. This bylaw has to be passed to permit staff to bill the taxpayers for 50% of last year's taxes. We have already billed them. We have already sent it out. I'm just late bringing the bylaw, so it turns into a bit of a housekeeping matter. I don't think council will say no. So
It's the only way we can actually operate this place at all. And even that gets stressful according to what Cass has been telling me. Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll just ask for a vote. All those in favor? No objections carried.
Hmm, which one's it? Okay.
I guess Sure. And we'll move into 9C then. It's a bylaw for municipal budget policy. Need a mover and a seconder once again. I've got Councillor Gattery and Councillor DeMarkey.
it was moved by Councillor Gattery, seconded by Councillor DeMarkey, that bylaw number 2023-15 being a bylaw for municipal budget policy be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 14th day of February 2023.
Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? No objections carried. Now are we ready for our engineering buddies? Yes, Kat.
So Mayor and Council, our engineer that wasn't able to join us at the last council meeting, he is joining us this evening. It has been confirmed, but he's with the city of Sudbury at the moment. He's doing two municipalities tonight, the city of Sudbury and Black River Matheson. He hasn't joined us yet. So if Mayor and Council would agree, we would just set this item aside and wait for him and continue with your agenda.
As long as he shows up.
He said he was going to be here.
This last time.
So we're gonna have to skip the whole, we'll skip the,
You're gonna go,
9A, 9B, 9C, and we're gonna go right and D. And then we're gonna go to E, right? No, D.
you're gonna go to D, which is second.
Okay, sorry. And then we're gonna go to 9D, and it's a food cycler for 2023 budget consideration. It's a presentation by Christina Azardo and Jessica Taylor from Food Cycle Science. Are they actually doing this?
So if I can-
Yes, Cass.
So with this specific motion, council, this was the motion to reconsider. So at the last meeting, you chose to reopen up the discussion. Now this motion is going to be in front of you. We'll just need a mover and a seconder. So this is your opportunity to change your position on a motion that has already been passed by council. Some council members, I'm just letting you know your options. You may not want to hear the presentation because you are satisfied with what has already been passed. Other council members may want to see the presentation, so you'll just have to discuss that. Hopefully I didn't complicate something that shouldn't be complicated.
So I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor DeMarkey and Councillor George.
Moved by Councillor DeMarkey, seconded by Councillor Jor, that council acknowledges the receipt of report EA-OT-2023-02 as information, and that council approve of implementing the food cycle program for $5,000 in the 2023 budget.
And just one little comment, and it's in regards to the fact that you didn't get the timely Roma report. And I actually didn't add that into the Roma report, but actually when I was at Roma, this company that's proposing this food cyclers, I actually visited their booth at the trade show at Roma and actually talked to them, and they actually showed me how the machine worked, and they showed me the machines, and they actually showed me the product. And as much as I right from the get-go, I said, well, the amount of food waste that we're gonna switch out from our municipal dumps as far as space is probably not very much, but it is really want to call it what you want. It's a nice widget. It does good work, and it does make a nice product for anybody that wants to do their little herb gardens or their little flower plants and stuff. And I'm not saying that we don't want to keep buying topsoil from a hardware store. So I'm just saying it is kind of neat that we take food waste that normally just gets moved into a landfill and that actually gets some actual value out of it. Whether it's my tree hugger coming out of me for a second or not, it's just nice to see some value added out of something, but that's just my comments. Anyway. I actually apologize for babbling away, but is there any other questions or concerns regarding this? Yes, Councilor.
I read the information last night on this food cycler thing, I don't understand it. Is it something that, is it a composting system that somebody's gonna come and pick up? Like
No.
they did in Sudbury?
No,
Because when I lived in Sudbury, we had the composting,
No.
the city supplied that, and they come and pick it up like regular garbage.
so maybe probably the best.
Cause I read the whole thing, I didn't get if somebody was picking this up, or if there's something that a household's buying and then using it on their own.
And I think if we actually open up and listen to the presentation, maybe that'll be the time after that. Maybe all the questions will be answered during the presentation, if not, we can ask questions after. Would that be okay with council? Let's move on, let's have the presentation. And we're gonna welcome. We're gonna welcome Jessica. Thank you very much,
Hi there.
Jessica. Nice to see you
Thank
tonight,
you.
thank you.
You as well. Thanks for having me. I will just share my screen here to get the presentation going. Oh, it looks like it's disabled. Can the host please allow screen sharing?
We're waiting for our tech.
Should be good.
Okay.
And we can see the presentation, we just can't see Jessica anymore. Oh, yes, we can, there's Jessica.
On the side.
All right, that's great. I will get started.
Thank
So good evening, Mayor, member of councils and staff. Thank you very much for having me this evening. So my name is Jessica Taylor and I'm the Municipal Program Manager at Food Cycle Science. And I'm here today to discuss a food waste program opportunity for Black River Matheson. So Food Cycle Science is a Canadian company. We're based out of Ottawa and we are 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions. And we do this using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler. Our in-home food waste recycler is sold directly to consumers through partners like Vitamix and Breville, to classrooms through partnerships with not-for-profit organizations, and to municipalities through our Food Cycler Municipal Solutions division. Our municipal solutions help many small, rural, remote, and northern communities keep food waste out of their landfills. We are currently working with 70 Canadian municipalities across 7 provinces and territories, from Nelson in British Columbia up to Hay River in Northwest Territories, and with several communities in Ontario who often face struggles with food waste management or where green bins are not an option. Now, the problem with food waste is that it's avoidable. It accounts for a large portion of our household waste, often a majority, and it's made up of mostly liquid, which is heavy and it freezes in the winter. On top of that, food waste in landfills is responsible for generating harmful greenhouse gases, and all of these factors make it so that food waste is a problem that has a strong municipal impact. One of the impacts to municipalities is that since food waste makes up such a large portion of our household waste stream, it's causing our landfills to fill up quickly. Landfills and waste collection are a major cost to a municipality. The environmental impact is that when organic waste decomposes in landfills, the anaerobic environment causes it to produce methane gas, which is a greenhouse gas many times more harmful than CO2 and a major contributor to climate change. And in our communities, putting food waste in the bin outside causes some interesting odors that can attract unwanted visitors like bears, raccoons, and other vermin. Removing food waste from the garbage eliminates these issues and reduces volume. This can save on operations costs and extend the life of your landfill. For residents, less waste and no smell is much easier to manage, and they may even save on excess bag tag costs. We often get asked, haven't we solved this already? And there are options available, like green bins, which millions of Canadians are accustomed to. But this type of service is popular in large cities where high population density and an investment in expensive infrastructure is in place. Many people in your community might backyard compost, and we love this, we think it's fantastic, but the reality is that many people may not have the space, ability, or desire to do this at home, and participation has been stagnant for decades. Finally, we can continue to landfill our organics, but the long-term impacts here are costly and they're harmful to the environment. I have a video here, I'll play it for you. I'm just going to drop the sound. So at Food Cycler, we've proposed a different way to deal with our food waste, which really focuses on making food waste very easy to deal with and right in our homes. Essentially, we've built a small kitchen appliance, which is about the size of a bread machine, where you put your food waste in, and that can include meat, poultry, fish, dairy, and even some bones. You push the button and in a matter of hours, you have a dry, sterile, odorless, and nutrient-rich soil amendment that comes out. The machine can be used anywhere with a plug. Most people store it in their kitchen, in their basement, or even a heated garage. The food cycler will process, on average, 1 to 3 kilograms of food waste per cycle. Each cycle takes between 4 to 8 hours to complete and uses about a kilowatt hour of power, which is the equivalent to having a computer plugged in for the same amount of time. The result is about a handful of dry, sterile, and odorless soil amendment that can be used in gardening, in your existing composting system. It can be given to a local farm or processed with leaf and yard waste systems. So the video we just watched showcased our newest model, Food Cycler Maestro, this one here on the right. We also have our original FC30. These take up about the same amount of space, but the Maestro has double the capacity, and this is often recommended for households of greater than 3 people. From an environmental standpoint, the food cycler is comparable to backyard and central composting if you don't take into account transportation emissions from trucks. And it represents an approximate reduction of greenhouse gas impact by about 95% versus sending it to the landfill. In terms of economic impact, our solution offers a return on investment by significantly reducing your waste management costs. You're looking at a savings of upwards of $150 per ton versus traditional methods that involve hauling and disposal. One thing that we've learned from working with municipalities is that residents are very interested in being a part of the solution. They want to try new things, they want options, and they want their government to bring these things to their community. With the food cycler, you get to bring something innovative and tangible to your residents, and they don't need to live in a big city to be able to divert their organics. We believe food waste diversion should be available to all Canadians, no matter where you live. On top of this social pressure is the impact of the regulations that are coming to us here in Ontario. There are a number of diversion targets I'm sure you're aware of that are coming into effect in the next couple of years. With the food cycler, we're reducing waste at the source. We're focusing on that low-hanging fruit, as we like to call it. Since food waste accounts for such a large portion of our household waste, it's the single most impactful strategy to achieve these diversion targets. I mentioned earlier that we are working with several municipalities across Canada. To date, we have completed pilot programs in over 40 municipalities and over 4,700 Canadian households. The results have been overwhelmingly positive. We are able to achieve a significant amount of net new waste diversion. We have a generous user experience rating of 4.6 out of 5 stars, and we see a 98% participation rate from our pilot participants. Last year, Food Cycler was selected as a finalist for Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge, which is a 3-part initiative from the Government of Canada to reduce Canada's food waste. As a finalist, we were awarded a $400,000 prize and tasked with finding more Canadian municipalities as implementation partners. We're using this funding to invest directly into pilot projects at a heavily subsidized price. These pilots will help us move into the final stage of the challenge, which comes with a $1.5 million grand prize. Any future funding received will continue to be used to invest in the programs for Canadians. And any municipality that partners with us will have the right of first refusal on any subsequent funding we receive. The pilot program is typically a 12-week project. Residents purchase a food cycler at a subsidized rate from their municipality. They use the unit, track the number of cycles per week, and then at the end, they get to keep their food cycler. We ask them to complete a brief survey so that we can evaluate the program's success. The results are then presented back to you in a final report or a feasibility study, if you will. And this data can be used to support your future waste management decision-making or to accompany a recommendation or grant application to extend the program. We offer the final report and grant writing support as part of the cost of the pilot program. So this funded pilot works based on a subsidy model where Food Cycle Science provides a discount, and then we add in the federal investment from Impact Canada to get the price of each unit reduced by 50%. We then ask the municipality to subsidize the cost by $100 per household. Participating residents will then choose which model best suits their household, and they contribute the remaining amount. And remember that after the 12-week pilot, the food cycler is theirs to keep. So they can access a device that would retail for $500 for $150 or $800, and they can access it for $300. Here we have pilot size recommendations. For Black River Matheson, we have recommended a 50 household pilot program based on previous discussions with your staff. Since the municipal subsidy is $100 per household, a pilot size of 50 households would require an investment of only $5,000 plus the cost of shipping and taxes. And this funding period for these programs will close in April of 2023 or until our Impact Canada funding is fully allocated, whichever comes first. So we would welcome the Township of Black River Matheson as a partner in this food waste challenge, as we believe your community is a great fit for the benefits of this program. Today, we would ask that you kindly receive our presentation as information and approve the recommendation to implement a 50 household food cycler pilot program in Black River Matheson. Thank you very much for allowing me to present this to you today. I'm prepared to answer any questions you may have that might help your decision.
Thanks, Jessica. I will actually open the floor to councillors one at a time, please, just to maintain decorum. But if questions for Jessica, anybody? Councillor Neil.
Yes, Jessica, I'm just wondering, as far as businesses, restaurants, with leftover foods, grocery stores, and you have like a 40% waste, are there provision for equipment that would cover that?
So this is what I present today is our municipal solution. We have a full other department that deals with commercial solutions. So while this household model goes up to 5 liters, we have commercial solutions that start at 80 liters and go up to 1,500 liters. So we really have a suite of solutions that could work for restaurants, you know, the arena, the retirement home, whatever it is that you're looking for. And I'm happy to have those discussions and show some options to you as well.
Thanks for the answers and thanks for the question. Anybody else have a question for Jessica? No other questions?
If she
Yes.
could just refresh me that the 2 recyclers that you showed us, what was the capacity for each one?
So it's the smaller one is 2.5 liters and then the larger one is 5 liters. So our original one is 2.5 liters and we've had that on the market for about 6 years now and run it through our pilot programs. And in the surveys that I mentioned, a large piece of feedback that we receive is that it wasn't big enough for larger families or bigger households. So we developed the Food Cycler Maestro, our new model that has doubled the capacity. And what we're seeing is that becoming really popular with households where you have 3 or more people.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? I see none. Is there any other comments, Jessica, you have for council? Or
No.
I think your presentation was great, but if there's anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's all. I think, you know, we're looking forward to the opportunity to work with your township with the 50 unit household pilot as a start and go from there. And I would just want to emphasize that, you know, we are coming down to the end of our Impact Canada funding over the next couple of months. So it's a really great time to take advantage of that federal funding right now.
And the only one last comment that I would like to make is when I was at Roma, when I was introduced to the machines, I was asking the question and the answer was the longevity, the expected longevity of the machine, Jessica?
Yeah, so for our original FC30, it's about 7 years, and the new Maestro, we're expecting 7 to 10 years. The new Maestro model is also fully modular, so we'll have a better repair program in place to even extend that longevity further.
It's good information also. Nothing further from council?
Is there any support if the machines break or if you have issues with them?
During the pilot, especially? Can you answer that? Diane?
Yes, sorry. So the pilot program comes with a 1-year warranty. We have a full support team ready to help your residents throughout the 12 weeks and beyond. Any repairs, any issues that need to be taken care of, we take care of anything that for the first year. We also can offer extended warranty options and can discuss that pricing with you as well, but we have a team of people ready. So as a municipality, you wouldn't be the ones troubleshooting issues or dealing with any repairs. Our team takes care of that.
Thank you.
Any further questions or concerns? If not, we might as well move along and we'll thank Jessica for her time and appreciate your time and efforts, Jessica. And of course, you'll receive a response back as to the direction of council.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So did we read the motion?
I did, yes.
Can I make a,
So we have the motion on the floor. Yes, you have a question.
now that I understand it better, I agree with this whole food recycling thing. But how much is this gonna cost township?
$5,000.
And I'm sorry to say, but a family not gonna pay $300 for a machine that's gonna make dirt. I don't see it happening. Myself, to me, it's not something that the township should be putting money into when there's other more important things that,
Well, and you know what? That's a fair comment to make, Councilor Rondo, and I appreciate that.
because I don't know, I lived in Chelmsford, they supplied, but they did a program like that, but North Bay, Sudbury and all that, I think that'd be more beneficial for the township. They supply composting, well, we don't compost it ourselves. They picked it up at the same time as recycling.
Yeah.
They supplied the bins for the inside of the house and we had an extra bin outside where we put the little bags in. They pick it up once a week. North Bay Sudbury turns all that into dirt and they turn around and sell that topsoil to the municipality when they need it. That to me makes more sense than that.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anybody else have any questions or concerns or comments? Yes, Councilor.
CEO had to stand up first.
Oh, sorry, you didn't see Chris.
No,
He's on the left
council
side.
members.
Okay. I'll take the floor then.
You got more priority than Chris. That's pretty good.
I do a lot of gardening and I don't need that machine. I bury my waste in my garden and worms do the
They
composting.
do the composting for you.
And I also include newspaper and cardboard in that. And by the following year, it's gone.
I just don't see households spending that kind of money for a machine. I know myself if I had a young family, I wouldn't do it. But when I was living in Sudbury, I did. Because it was part of my garbage cleanup in the morning. I went outside, there was no smell in the house, they picked it up once a week. And the town, the city benefited from it because it turned it in, they were able to in turn, sell the topsoil, which ends up being a revenue for the township. This is not a revenue, this is a cost to the township, because you guys have to fork out, I don't know how many pilots you have to do,
Not
but
us,
yeah,
We,
they,
not us, we.
yeah, we, exactly.
Thanks, Councilor Rondo. Chris?
So those green bin programs, which have been around for a while. As indicated from Jessica when she was doing that, they actually pump more, not methane, but more, from the trucks and whatnot into the atmosphere. So that's the point about that, right? Is that these don't do that. Now, you're right, maybe the average person would not fork out money for that. But all that waste right now.
Oh, yeah, I
It's
understand that.
going into our landfill and it's being trucked there. And when it gets reduced to whatever it boils down to, you can't use that soil. Because it's mixed in with the landfill itself, which is, there's all kinds of nasty.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one thing to think about. The other thing to think about here is that we have an obligation and a responsibility with respect to climate change.
Absolutely.
And the federal government, and to a lesser extent, the provincial government is looking to municipalities to do some of this. So that was all part of the discussion earlier about the arena and what we're doing there, right? So this is just another little small pilot that's along. If we don't do this, then what are we gonna do? I mean, if we put a green bin program in place,
I'd rather see money going towards a green bin progress and make money off of that soil for the community. I'd rather go buy composted soil than go to the hardware store and buy a bag of Miracle Grow for my garden.
yeah, no, I sort of get that, but I'll bet, I mean, this is just a pilot, right?
Mhm.
So I'll bet that if you look at a green bin, it's gonna be quite expensive. Because you've got to have a company to collect your green bins, which would be our waste company.
Mhm.
Then you've got a spot to put it. And so I tried this in another community. You know what happened was they forced us to apply for a certificate of approval, MOE did, in order to have a composting facility. Easy to do for North Bay to do, but for a small community to do, it's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Because I encourage composting. It's a great.
Oh, me
idea.
too. I am a gardener. and all that.
Just before I take the next, just a reminder to council that as much as we want to get as much communication and freedom of information going through this forum, it's important that we just maintain the decorum as our clerk reminded me that we ask our questions in a process manner and once you answer, then we move on. Thank you, Councillor Neil.
Yes, Mayor, this is, again, can be answered by anyone at the table there. This is a pilot project with volunteers. They're looking for 50 homes. So really, again, it's only gonna be for the 50 original people that support this. So again, it's not like anybody else is necessarily having to comply right now. This is it's a pilot project. Is that correct, in my understanding?
It maxes out at 50 for our community. So if you don't get 50, then you're not paying that $100 for each one, right? If you get 30, then you're looking at $3,000. So
Mayor Denny?
Yes,
I just want to point out too that we already have 10 residents interested, so that's already 10 out of 50 that are on board.
thanks, Angie. Yes, Councillor McGowan.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think if we want to sell this to people, they'll probably need to have a presentation as well, or a demonstration or something, because just looking at the paper, it didn't do anything for me.
No, me either.
But this really brought it to, to life, so to speak.
And just as a comment, and I'm sure Hanji can even answer that, is I'm sure that presentation in some way, shape, or form is available to educate people as to the use of it or its benefits and so on and so forth. Yes, Hanji, could you please?
To the Mayor and Council. So if and when we implement this program, I'll do a proper advertising campaign. I'll start on Facebook, on YouTube. I'll set up a webpage on our website, and I'll have lots of contact information as well as informational videos. If there's any questions before people want to submit, they can contact us.
All right, any other questions? Yes, Councillor Neil.
Commissioners through the mayor to Angie. Angie, can a business, so I'm looking at as far as for the church. When I look at, we have meals and stuff, there's leftover scraps. Would we be able to be a part of the pilot project? The fact that we're not for profit, is that an issue or?
So I've already spoken with them. There's no restrictions. They target towards residential because the unit is of a smaller size, but anybody within this town can apply.
Perfect.
Take part.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions? If not, I guess, yes, Cass.
There's a councillor with a question.
Oh, I didn't see Councillor Ron. She's on the left side again. I'm trying, and I'm trying to ignore you tonight, aren't I? Sorry, Councillor Ron.
That's okay. Thank you, Mayor. What's the cost to the individual who signs up for this, for the pilot project?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember, it is my. it's-
Depending on the size.
Or 300 for the larger, yeah.
So they still have to pay for this unit?
Yes, we're subsidizing, they're subsidizing it, the government's subsidizing, and we're subsidizing.
I don't know if you'll get your 50 households, but
I don't see that. I don't see that machine being worth.
Me neither.
$500.
Pardon me, Councillor Markey?
I don't see that machine being worth $500. That's what they're saying, the value of that machine is.
And my only comment is this is coming from them, and obviously they're in business to make this work at some point, to make them money. And obviously, we've got their information, that's the information we have to go with. And we're all gonna get an opportunity to revisit this through the motion, and if there's any further questions, we'll entertain them. If not, we'll move forward with the vote on the motion. I don't think we need to read that.
No, I've already read it, Mr. Mayor.
Only twice, I think.
Only once.
Anyway, if I could have a show of hands and those in favor of the motion,
Well,
and those against. Motion is defeated.
But, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
Councillor Giroux.
sorry, yes,
Mr.
Councilor.
Mayor, is there not another way that we could actually look at and places putting out money, maybe talking to our Mennonite friends, because they do recycling? Maybe get some ideas from them so we can do it less costly to be able to get people to start recycling.
And the only comment I'll go back to, and that was the information that Chris provided, was you're back to the collection and the moving of it. And of course, I mean, I'm not an expert on the environmental impact, but as soon as you start moving things with vehicles, of course, then you got your greenhouse gas back to that routine, but I do take your ideas as reasonable, that there's definitely other options been thrown out here that are available. But what we were
Can we
dealing with,
check into that better? Yes,
What I would suggest, I talked just a little while ago about the master plan. This is the type of thing that you would want to place in there, right? So, Hanji's been doing some work. It's been a number of years since the municipality has applied for any blue box money. That whole system is changing now too, where the responsibility is going to the folks who produce the materials. And Hanji's working on some of that as well, but I think, given the number of landfills we have, given the cost of closing those landfills when they come to maturity, it really, and the climate change issue, it really is important for us to have a strategy. Doesn't necessarily have to be these machines, it could be some other strategy. I really like what Councillor Dan does. I like the idea of, there are people who will buy red wigglers and use those to compost material. And other than bones, some bones, as they had described, those worms can do the same thing that the machines can do, right? But so what's our strategy? Well, we don't have one, and so that's an ideal item to be talked about.
thank you.
Instead of this machine, we should buy a book called Lasagna Gardening. Sell that. I'm serious.
Yeah.
all right, well, if we have no more questions, we've actually, we're gonna move on because,
Well, Mr. Mayor,
yes,
the engineer, Mr. Morris, is on Zoom, so he is waiting.
let's go back to that then.
Okay,
And that was, where were we at? Was
That was me?
A, B, and C.
that's 10A, B, and C.
yes. So if we actually have our engineer on the line, of course, this is the time that, do we want to move in a second or first?
So no, Mr. Mayor, this is a bit of a legislative procedure, and so forgive me if I'm a little slow, but I do have some instructions for you and I.
Okay,
And of course, our engineer, Mr. Morris, is here to also assist and guide when needed. So
please lead the way.
as of right now, Mr. Mayor, if you could just announce that we are going to review.
Yeah, okay, so right now, that's, we're at the point, we're gonna review the Vimy Ridge drain. And we're doing that tonight, February the 14th. And well, and if we could ask our engineer to briefly review the report with us. And explain to council where we're at. Neil, I'll turn the
Yes.
floor over to you, Neil.
Yes, can you hear
Thanks
me?
for joining us.
I apologize for taking a little bit longer. My last meeting was interesting. And thank you again, Your Worship, and I'd like to present my report. Can I share my screen?
It's open.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to present the Vimy Ridge drain. So this report dates back to March 2016. We were appointed to provide an outlet for the upstream side of Vimy Ridge Road. We had a public meeting in May of that year, and we had a consideration of the report or meeting on October 2nd, 2017. That at that point it was referred back to the engineer because DFO had some concerns, and with their concerns, we deleted the lower section of the drain and we did a primary focus on the railway and the road crossing. We submitted that report, and constructed it shortly after that. Right now, the drain is complete, but we haven't gone through this process. It was just missed as we were going through construction, and it was sort of in the middle of COVID and sort of some other issues. I apologize. I'm coming over a cold, so my voice may be a little bit rasp at some point. Here's an overview of the project. The red is the proposed work that, the red and green is the proposed work. The red is an open drain, and the green is where the closed tile would be. And the sort of gray blue line is where the watershed is. So the total length of the drain is about 255 meters. About 215 meters of that is open ditch, and 40 meters of that is closed drain. There's approximately 62 acres in the watershed, and the total cost of the project is about $180,000 estimated, and of that, about 120,000 is construction. And the municipality has an assessment of about $27,000, and the remainder goes to sorry, the landowners in the watershed. Of that, the majority of it is for the railway crossing of about $90,000, a special assessment. So the objective of this meeting is to provide an sorry. The objective of this meeting is to provide a venue for landowners to have technical aspects brought forward to the engineer. This drain is constructed at this point, and what I've been told is it is working appropriately. We had some initial concerns that it wasn't installed correctly, and then we had to get another contractor to come in to do it correctly. I've been informed by your public works manager that it did go in as designed, and it should be working properly. This meeting also doesn't deal with assessments, and the other thing that council has to do at this point is to give, since it is a petition drain, give the landowners the opportunity to add or remove their name from the petition. And if the petition is still valid, we'll go to the next stage, which is a court of revision, which will be held, which will deal with the cost aspect of it. And since we've finished the drain, I can present at that meeting an actual cost that the landowners would be facing at that point. The council has sort of two different options at this point: refer the report back to the engineer, or give it first and second reading, and so it can proceed to the court of revision to deal with the cost aspect of the report. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Yes, Cass.
So if, just so council understands, because Neil did mention to it, the engineer did mention to it, so the drain physically exists, and the issue here lies is that legally now it needs to exist, and this is why we're doing this evening. It's again a housekeeping matter, and like the other drain that already came to council, so this is failure on my part to not follow through on the legislation properly. So this is why we're revisiting it now. So again, the drain exists. It's just legally we have to make it exist. So, Mr. Mayor, it says here, if you want to do number 2.
So we'll open the discussion floor for council for this further discussion on this issue. Is there any questions or concerns for Neil or any question or concern in the process? Yes, Councilor Martin.
Just a question, your worship, like this started in 2016,
Yeah, I remember at the start time.
7 years, why so long?
Cass, can you speak to that? Why it took so long to complete?
I can, to a point. I might have to turn it over to Neil. So although the petition was submitted, Councillor DeMarchi, at a specific point in time, the process only starts once the clerk starts the process. So I will say there was a bit of time in between when the petition was actually submitted to when the process actually started. So we lost some time there. The other issue with this drain is when we went out for tender for the completion of the drain, it was awarded to a local company or a local contractor. And then there was some technical issues with the building of that drain. So Mr. Morris could speak more to it than I can from a technical point of view, but that also increased the length of time for this to be completed. And then finally, it's taken some time as well from an administration perspective. Not being completely familiar with the Drainage Act and this being one of our first drains, so there was some lost time there.
Did it, just to follow up? Your
Yes,
worship,
please.
Did it cost us more money because of contracting mess ups?
Yes, Cass.
Yes, it cost the township more money.
Through you, Mayor, we didn't pay the contractor the original amount in the contract. But the second contractor that came in did have a higher price than what was the first contractor. So that's sort of what the increase was. It still was within my original budget of it, which is sort of good on that aspect of it. But we didn't pay the original contractor the full price what he bid. We only give him paid for the work that was completed properly.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns from council? Nothing further? Okay. So regarding the petitioners, Paul and Lena Bauman and Cleason and Martha Martin, in this case, have the right to withdraw from the petition under section 42 of the Drainage Act. Repeat that. That's it. There's nobody wishes to ask.
Oh, you should still do it just because I don't want to do this.
Okay.
Just read them.
Okay.
Read
And
them.
that other owners in the area requiring drainage have the right to sign the petition under section 43 of the Drainage Act. None of this makes, it's all brand new to me, so. Next.
So maybe, Neil, would you be able to explain to council what it is we're reading out loud when it comes to the petitions and
Sure.
the original petitioners and any added individuals to the petition?
Sure.
Yeah,
So one of
please clarify.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. So part of the process is that's legislated by under the Drainage Act is that at the consideration meeting, since this is a section 4, any landowners who council has to give the ability for landowners to add or remove their names from the petition. So that's what we're doing right now. We have to give that out. The other thing is if landowners have any questions or concerns, they can bring it forward at this meeting. But we can only deal with technical matters. We can't deal with assessments that will be held at the next meeting, which is the Court of Revision. And like Cassandra had said, the drain is already constructed at this point. It is functioning as intended. So this is more of a housekeeping measure to make it a physical bylaw. So we cannot. So we can maintain it in the future as well to get OMAFRA grant on this project, which is 2/3 for the farmlands. So it's quite substantial.
No, so actually now, Mr. Mayor, because you've already put it on the floor, at this point now we have 3 motions to deal with.
Okay,
So I
we'll move forward with our motions. Then I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Drewer and Councillor Gadry.
So council, just so you know, the first motion is actually to adopt the report. The second motion has to do with the first and second reading. And the third motion, we're going to have to appoint a court of revisions. And again, this is all just housekeeping, okay?
Process. Yes, Councillor DeMarco.
It's clear as mud in my mind.
Me too.
I'm just wondering what this removing from partition, all this means.
Yeah.
Like,
Can you explain that, Cass, or would you rather Neil explain?
I prefer it, Neil.
Neil, can you?
Okay.
answer that
So-
question?
So there was an original petition that started this project off, and as part of the process, those landowners have an opportunity to add or remove their names from the petition. If they remove their name from the petition, it ends and they cover the engineering cost to date, and the project would stop. You can add your name to the petition as well if to show support as well. So that's sort of what's happening at this point. It's already constructed, so it's kind of
A moot point.
yes, but it's still something that has to be done because it's legislated.
I think I understand. I know it's still clear as mud, but I'm assuming that those in attendance are here for that reason and have no reason to remove their name from the petition. And yes, sir.
One question, one of the original petitioners no longer owns the farm, and where do you purchase that farm? Is that getting transferred, or what happened here?
Neil, can you answer that? Did you hear the
Yeah.
question? The
Yes.
ownership of the one piece of property of one of the petitioners has changed hands.
Yes, so once a petition is signed, it binds the property. So it doesn't matter whoever buys or sells the property in the future, the property is bind to that petition. So it is still valid. The new landowner doesn't lose.
Does that answer your question? Thank you. So I guess we can move forward.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just don't have a seconder. I didn't catch it.
It was Councillor Drewer and Councillor DeMarchi, I believe. Oh, it's Councillor Gattery, I'm sorry. I know it was on the right side because I can't see anything on the left, right?
Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Gattery, that council for the Township of Black River Matheson hereby approves report for the Vimy Ridge Drain dated February 16th, 2018, with file number 16-130 by Case Martin Associates Limited, and in doing so approves bylaw coming forward provisionally adopting Vimy Ridge Drain.
And we've handled all the questions. So all those in favor? Show of hands. Thank you very much. No.
Cassandra, there's one more thing that you guys should do at this point is appoint your members of your Court of Revision.
And that's going to be our next motion,
Okay,
I believe.
So if I can, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Cass.
Through to the engineer. So Neil, I have two more motions. One is to actually do the first and second reading on the bylaw, and the second one is to appoint the Court of Revisions.
So we need a mover and a seconder again. I got Councillor Rondo and Councillor Drewer.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Drewer, that bylaw number 2023-11 being a bylaw, the Corporation of the Township of Black River Matheson to provide for drainage works in the Township of Black River Matheson, known as Vimy Ridge Drain, be read a first and second time this 14th day of February 2023.
All those in favor? Carried. We got one more. And we're gonna need another mover and a seconder again. Councillor DeMarchi and Councillor Drewer.
Moved by Councillor DeMarchi, seconded by Councillor Drewer. Be it resolved that council set the date of February 21st, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. at the municipal office for the Court of Revisions. And further that the following are appointed as members of the Court of Revisions. And finally, that the following member be appointed as chair. So now, Mr. Mayor, based on the date and time that was provided, and again, this is again a housekeeping matter, we need to identify 3 council members that will be available on this date and time to be part of the Court of Revisions.
Do we have three volunteers or 3 volunteers? It's the 21st, should be on the Tuesday. Councillor Drewer is willing to sit. Councillor Neil will sit. Councillor Diamond will sit. Thank you very much, councillors. Appreciate it.
And now, Mr. Mayor, with the motion, I just need one of those councillors to say they'll be the chair.
Who's willing to be chair? Councillor Neil. Councillor Neil has been appointed as chair. Now, once the motion is passed, that is. All those in favor? Thank you, everybody. Carried. Okay, Neil, thank you very much for your time and efforts, and I think you've handled everything very well for us, and I think we're under control.
okay.
Till the
Thank
next
you.
time.
Thank you.
Good luck with your cold.
I've got a little one, so
It's gonna keep going now. Thanks, Neil.
Yeah.
thanks. Bye.
And our next item is item E, and it was regarding committees of council and board appointments and regarding the worker bees. And I know when we, at the last meeting regarding worker bees, we had a pretty heated, at least a very good discussion about it and the issues and concerns. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a nice night. But regarding that, I had promised council that I asked council respectfully to allow me the opportunity to meet with the mayors of Cochrane and Iroquois Falls regarding the worker bees committee. And it's not that I'm trying to avoid any reporting, but I did manage to get the meeting organized for Monday after I came back from my hiding away in Mexico. And we actually had a discussion. Actually, Chris and I went up and met with the CAOs of Cochrane, Iroquois Falls, and the mayors of Iroquois Falls, Tori Deloria and Mayor Politis from Cochrane. And we had a discussion, and I was planning on bringing that report back to our next council meeting, because I just haven't had time to put a proper report together for council. So what are we gonna do?
So, Mr. Mayor, in order, my suggestion would be that we get a mover and a seconder so we can table this motion. And council then can decide if they want to defer the item.
Okay, let's do a mover and a seconder for this motion. We got Councillor Neil and Councillor Gathering.
Moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Gattery, that council appoint the following individuals to the Worker Bee Advisory Committee.
So, what I want to do. So, if what's council's direction on this? Would you like to actually appoint some members of this committee or defer? Councillor Neil?
I'd like to defer this until the next council meeting, when the report has been presented.
Yeah. And actually, Chris suggested I at least kind of bring council up to speed on at least part of the discussion, even though it won't be a formal report. But before we even move to defer per se, it's just that speaking to the other two mayors, they would still like to see the worker bee committee to have an opportunity to exist in some way, shape, or form, either worker bees or something else, but the whole physician recruiter item. And I made it very clear that our council was kind of objecting, and the main suggestion that was there was that the worker bees, we have the old committee and the new committee basically sit down with the same group that met up in Iroquois Falls the other day and basically have a discussion and basically a timeline saying, look, we kind of know what the terms of reference are, but maybe these need to be tweaked, and goals and objectives and a set time frame for those goals and objectives to be met is what was suggested. And that's about as much as I can tell you right now that I actually know. Yes, Councilor Rondo.
Yeah, they want to keep it together. They're the ones benefiting from it. We have not benefited at all from this worker bee in Matheson.
I was a
Your
little bit,
Falls and Cochrane have, we have not.
and you know.
So to me, it's a waste of time.
And Councilor Rondo, I appreciate those comments, and Chris can actually comment on this if he wishes. But I actually raised that particular issue with them, saying, you know, we haven't seen the results in Black River Matheson like Cochrane and Iroquois Falls have. And I don't think even Cochrane and Iroquois Falls have seen all the results they'd like to see. So I think everybody is sitting there going, well, look, this is happening and nothing else is happening. So where do we go with this? And that was where the discussion basically ended, is that we have a second meeting at some point to discuss how we're going to move it forward or squash it. But we didn't come to that final conclusion. Is that fair to say, Chris?
Yeah,
Chris could make his own comments because he was there too.
Mayor Delorier was pretty forward with his comments and he said. There's no metrics with the mandate of a committee, and there never was because they didn't want any. And he felt that, this thing has sort of started rolling. We should give them some leeway to see what they can do. But not without meeting with the, if I can call them the older worker bee people and the people who have applied to be on the new one. So thus, you might want to think about deferring the appointment. As soon as you appoint the members, they can start working, right? So, but anyway, I think from my perspective, I agree with everybody. This has not worked for Black River Matheson at all. So if we don't regionalize this approach, what's our plan B?
Yes, Councilor Rondo.
Maybe form our own committee just for Black River Matheson.
You could actually do both, and actually Mayor Politis talked about a task force that he's formed in Cochrane. But I think this is a bigger issue than the three towns, bigger issue than the region. This is a pan-Canadian problem. And I said to everybody yesterday, you got 444 municipalities in the province of Ontario, and I'm telling you right now, we're right down to the bottom. Not on the bottom,
No.
but we're in the bottom group. So we have to yell really loud to get attention, and I still don't. This thing's been around for 30 years. Ever since I started municipal government, this issue has been around. So I agree that we probably could have a local committee as well to throw some ideas around, but it's,
Yeah.
it's.
So something has to happen. If this isn't working, then we don't need to continue with this. We need something. Yes, Councilor Rondo.
It's just having worked. Just example, mix, Matheson, Iroquois Falls, Cochrane. All the doctors are going to Cochrane and Iroquois Falls. Nobody's pushing, nobody's encouraging. Doesn't matter if there's a worker bee committee or if it's just a mixed general, and we don't get the doctors here. So to me, the committee is useless for us to even invest into it. Because we had a worker bee internship that resulted with a part-time doctor that we get appointments with once a month. What did I give us? Iroquois Falls has got 10 plus doctors, and I have no idea how many Cochrane has. Where do we fit in here if we're supposed to work together? So even if we form a new committee together and meet with the old committee, I don't think it's going to resolve anything because it's still going to end up the same. Iroquois Falls and Cochrane is still going to get everything. We're not going to get nothing. So to me, it's pointless, completely pointless to even go forward with this worker bee thing. But that's my opinion. I don't know if any of the councilors.
Thank you for your opinion. I know Councilor DeMarquis got his hand up with a question.
Have we looked into your worship, nurse practitioners or walking clinics?
I've had some open discussions with Chris here regarding a couple of different options. I'm gonna let Chris speak to it.
So yesterday I talked with the mayors about what the hospital in Wawa had done. Because I was there when they did it. They had an old hospital. They got money. It took them 25 years, but they built a new hospital. On the front of the hospital, they built space to house the Wawa Family Health Team. Matheson does not have a family health team. We have a joint family health team with Iroquois Falls. The office is in Iroquois Falls. That family health team in Wawa, I think it can house 6 doctors, I think is the complement they're supposed to have. But those doctors, they have their own, so the family health team, they work for them, they have their own practice, but they also can go into the hospital as well. So the way it was described to me here was that mix, so the local hospital here, they're very interested in attracting emergency room doctors. The job of attracting family physicians is somebody else's, and well, it's the provinces, frankly. And I think everybody recognized yesterday it is provinces and they're not doing a good job. So this is where municipalities come in. The model that I described, and it would require some discussion with the local hospital and everything, could work here. It could, but you don't know until you start talking about it, right? And so the recruitment in the Wallace example was all done by the hospital. It wasn't done by a committee or whatever, right? But that's not the position of the hospital here. And so, and I can't speak to why. Obviously that might have been a decision that the board made or whatever, but I think we need to have a discussion as to what's gonna work for us. It's because time is moving, and then you get places like Hearst. So if you're a doctor and you go to Hearst, they'll give you $1 million. They'll give you $50,000 a year for 20 years. You sign on.
Lots of money in hers.
That's just as a signing bonus.
So, you know, there's lots of competition out there for that type of thing. I like the nurse practitioner model because there's lots of nurse practitioners now coming out and practicing. But at the same time, if you're really sick, you're not going to a nurse practitioner. You have to go to a doctor. And so,
Well, depends on the doctor.
Mhm.
yeah.
I think there's a concern too, because nurse practitioners aren't always funded. Like,
Yeah, we don't know the funding.
That's a
You're
discussion,
absolutely right.
that's another discussion we can have. Yes, Council Ron.
Speaking of nurse practitioners, we have one that's about to graduate that has been working in Matheson for 20+ years. So, yeah, York Falls has a family health team. We need one. Not York Falls, not Cochrane. We need to build one here in Matheson. That includes a couple of nurse practitioners and maybe one more family physician. Yeah, we need ER doctors, but we've got locums that come and do that
If you can get them.
if you can get them. But Razak seems to be coming in when he needs to. He's not far. Like the older family doctors are coming in. It's just, to me, the whole family B thing is, the whole worker B thing is just not working.
Yeah,
It's putting us in the bottom of the barrel and they don't care about us. As long as they get what they want.
So what,
Okay,
So-
thanks, Council Ron.
what I'm suggesting here is that we need a solution.
We do.
That worked for us, right? I'm not suggesting the worker visa is right or wrong. You know, only they can answer those questions, but we do need a strategy. Absolutely. Medical care is, I mean, if you're talking about more people coming here, whether it's our Mennonite folks that are coming here or whether it's going to be minors that are going to come and move here because of, say, Mennonite Gold or whatever, you're going to need physicians. And so it's really tough. And as I said, we're at the bottom of the list, right?
I know I have my own theories, my own ideas. But I don't really want to spend all night talking about those ideas and theories. But we should be just dealing with this motion at the moment. If everybody's okay with that, and I'm not trying to stifle discussion, but I know we'll go in circles and I'd probably give you more of a verbal report than I would have even probably put on a piece of paper than. So you already know that we basically didn't come away with a full resolution from our Iroquois Falls chat, but we still, and of course, it doesn't resolve the issues that we're concerned with, so. And the resolutions on the floor, did we read that?
No, Mr. Mayor, so I have a mover, I don't have a seconder,
We don't have a seconder, we have Councilor Drew.
and maybe I missed it, so you may
Maybe.
have given it to me and I just missed it. So the motions to defer, a motion to defer has to give a date and a reason. I have the date. I heard the next council meeting, but what's the reason for the deferral?
Because of the report, as far as receiving the report,
Okay.
kind of verbal report now. I don't know if that changes anybody's.
It probably won't change a thing after I make a written report, but if that's enough of an excuse to at least table a resolution, that's good enough for me. We're just deferred, we're just postponing stuff I don't think anybody wants to even be involved with anymore, from what I'm hearing around the table. But at the end of the day, we have to follow our process and protocol, so
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
please.
moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Drewer, that council defer the motion to that council defer the worker bee motion to the February 28th regular council meeting to provide the opportunity to the mayor to submit a subsequent report concerning the committee.
Okay, I'll just ask for a vote. All those in favor, click affirm it. Seeing no objections, carried. Thank you, Cass. Yes, Councilor Neil.
Your worship, just for the sake of knowledge, is there any way we can get a report as far as from the worker bee committee? As far as which doctors have come into Cochrane, which doctors have come into Iroquois Falls as a result of the worker bees? Is there any way that metric can be shown? Then we look as far as, I mean, it sounds like everybody's getting everybody, we're getting no one, but is that actually accurate? Is that again, just how many people have actually come in, new doctors?
Since the worker bees were formed, you
That's
mean?
correct. Is that a
Now-
possibility?
I'm sure we can get that information somewhere, but will it be 100%? I can't guarantee that. I can ask the question, Suzanne, I guess, but
You could, but I can tell you, I'm not aware of any. Dr. Gray, I think, was maybe part of that, but I will tell you that in that time that the worker bees were working or doing whatever they do, there was several doctors that did come here and had tour of the town and whatnot, but I don't think they didn't sign in. None of them were signed. So,
I may just speak through your worship to Chris again. Chris, when you were talking with the mayors, when you're meeting with our mayor, were the other mayors satisfied with the result, or are they all feeling the same frustration we're feeling?
no, they were very, as I said, Mayor Delorier was very forward. Now he has the advantage of being mayor last term. Mayor Politis, of course, is back after, but he was, there was a certain amount of frustration between two of the worker bee communities and more just two of the individuals. And neither one is there anymore. And Mayor Politis was much more accommodating in terms of cooperating, and he understands the regional approach. But he also understands that he has responsibility to look after Cochrane as well. And that's why he did the task force. He sees those two as dovetailing. But they've only met once, so.
We'll try to put something together that makes more sense, but for the 28th. And then at that point, we can either move forward or decide where we're going with this. Because we can't just keep spinning our wheels forever. Yes, Councilor DeMarchi.
One quick question. Does the CEO of the hospital have anything to do with worker bees?
No.
One said yes, one said no.
Well,
You
he
know,
does.
he's on
the
a resource. Yeah, he's a resource.
He's a resource, but he's not really easy to, but like Chris had mentioned earlier, mix is, and Paul Chatelain's responsibility with the mix group is to find emergency room practitioners, basically, and looking at, like, he's nothing, I know he had made a commitment when I was the council's member on the mix board, that he was supposed to be responsible for providing another doctor to Black River Matheson, and that was 4 years ago, and nothing ever happened. So I don't really know how his involvement with the worker bees is. He's a resource, but it seems like it's completely two different complete roles and responsibilities and directions. But that's my own limited information that I'm getting. That covers everything? Where are we at?
You are right here.
Oh, okay, so under other business, 11A, the AMO Annual General Meeting and Conference Registration for 2023. And moving to seconder, moved by Councilor Drewer, seconded by Councilor Gadry.
Moved by Councilor Drewer, seconded by Councilor Gadry, that council approve of the following individuals to attend the 2023 annual AMO conference in London, Ontario, from August 20th to the 23rd, 2023.
And as much as I don't really want to be all over the place every day of the month, I would like to have my name submitted for that, please. Other councils that wish to have their name submitted for AMO? No one else? Just asking. Like, again, my plan is to attend with a delegation to ask for something that we need, and we need lots. Money. It's all tied to money. Yes, it is, Councilor DeMarchi. No one else wishes to have their name put forward? All right, then I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And then we're into 11B. It's a letter of notification from Mix regarding your raffle license. Move in the seconder, please. Councilor Drewer and Councilor Rondo.
Moved by Councilor Drewer, seconded by Councilor Rondo, be it resolved that council received the correspondence from Mixed Group of Health Services dated January 25th, 2023, regarding their electronic raffle application to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario as information.
And we all received that.
Mhm.
Any questions? No questions? All those in favor? No objections, carried. And the next item, I guess, is for us to enter into closed.
So I'll need a move and a seconder.
Need a mover and a seconder, Councillor Drewer and Councillor Gadri again.
Was moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Gadri, that council now comes into a portion of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 8:55 PM. In accordance with section 239 subsection 2, clause A and C of the Municipal Act, in order to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, as well as the security of the property of the municipality or local board regarding the financial position.
All those in favor? Thank you. And unfortunately, now we have to ask everyone else.